to the relaunch of the Prospector Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. First of all, I'd like to introduce Andy Leahy.
G'day everyone, how you going?
He's probably been seen a few times by you guys, obviously from Aussie Gold Hunters, but also a full-time prospector. And tell us a bit about yourself, mate.
Well, I've been prospecting for 25 years or so now. Like a lot of prospectors, I started off like chasing topaz and crystals and that sort of thing too. And then I met an old mate, shout out to Rod Pavey, who taught me how to pan gold, and that was the start of the end, mate. Once I got that gold fever, I'm just like the rest of us, stuck here doing it forever.
Yep.
So, but did a lot of it on the Warro goldfields, prospected sort of as an amateur for a fair few years, and then had a crack for a while at going out pro and failed.
Yep.
Went back to just chasing gems and crystals and gold as an amateur again for a long time, but then about 6 years ago went pro and actually succeeded.
Yeah, which is, look, testament to you as well, mate, because not a lot of guys can do that. It's hard work.
Real hard work. Yeah. That first year, I found 7.5 ounces of gold when it was worth like 70 a gram.
Yeah.
So barely struggled by. And of course, they chucked me on TV then too. So, which has been a fun ride. But Aussie Gold Hunters has been great, but it's certainly not what we're here to talk about either.
No.
We're here to talk about prospecting, and that's what we both love to do. And that's what we're going to chat, over the next coming episodes, aren't we? Cover all different types of prospecting and all its different formats. I mean, I love chasing a detector, and you're on the pan mostly, aren't you?
Mostly, yeah, and that's probably just due to my location. I have very limited access to detectable ground. It's either overgrown or it's actually someone's front yard.
Yeah, right.
So prospecting in suburbia has its challenges, but I do love having a swing. It's something I want to get more into as well, when I've got the right equipment as well.
Well, that always helps. And the right ground.
The right ground's a big thing. Yeah.
And that's what we're blessed in Queensland in that regard. We've got Warwick and Clermont, and obviously the Palmer River's open to us now too, which are all fantastic prospecting areas. Like most open areas, like our GPAs, are starting to get touched up.
Yeah.
But we're always working on getting new properties open. That's one of my big things, is trying to get properties open to the public so we can all have that shot at chasing a bit of untouched ground. Who doesn't love getting into gold that no one else has got into since the old times?
And it's an aspect of prospecting that I'm not used to, the private ground thing. We're blessed in a lot of ways in Victoria where we can pretty much prospect anywhere. Any of our sort of state parks and that, we're free to do what we like in them. So you don't need that private ground to find gold. In saying that, it's a very small state. It's been pretty well worked. It's had a lot of guys running detectors over it, digging holes and panning. So the beauty you've got up here is you're about 15 times the size of Victoria. So you've got a lot more ground.
And look, even in those flog fields, even in the Warwick goldfields, there's still places that aren't touched.
We proved that yesterday.
That's right. Where I hadn't been to that spot for 4 or 5 years. And I said, it's quite possible other people have found it, but no one else has.
No one has been there.
No. So, and that's the difference between prospectors and fossickers, I guess. Prospectors are always looking for new ground. Fossickers are quite happy to go where the gold's already been found.
And it's a big thing for me too, and I think you're the same, where it's more about the hunt than the actual find.
Absolutely. I put just as much time into research as I do field work.
Exactly. I do the same thing. Now, for the guys that have come across from Andy's channel and follow Andy, I'll give you a quick rundown on myself. Obviously, I'm an Andrew as well. I'm based in Melbourne currently. I say currently because there may be some changes coming soon. I pretty much detect and pan and prospect the Melbourne goldfields, which is Caledonia goldfields. They were a relatively rich field in the suburbs of Melbourne that got neglected due to lack of funding in the gold rush. So a lot of gold sort of got left behind, and you can have quite a bit of success in the Melbourne goldfields. I do also head down to Gippsland and occasionally up the Triangle, but a 3-hour drive to hit flog ground for me is a bit of a waste of time, so I try and stick to Melbourne. I obviously have started a podcast previously. This is a relaunch. I shot it off when I didn't understand YouTube as much as I do now, so it was a little bit of a failure, and then, lucky for me, Andy actually reached out. He originally wanted to come on as a guest, which I was all for, and we got chatting and sort of got along pretty well. And one thing led to another, and here we both are.
Yeah, here we are doing it.
Doing the relaunch of the podcast. So, yeah.
We really want it to be a community-based sort of thing. Like, we're not doing this for profit. We're doing this to help prospecting community, which is certainly given me a lot. I wouldn't be where I am without the support of a lot of Queensland prospectors especially, but Australia-wide, even worldwide. So this is our way of sort of giving back to the community and helping unite people as prospectors as well, and share that information and keep everyone involved from the raw beginner right through to the seasoned experts. We want to give everyone something to listen to and a bit of something to work on, something to think about, something to discuss.
Yeah, and look, we're definitely not here to preach to you. We were talking about this yesterday, that every time I go out into a goldfield, I'm learning something new. I've been prospecting, hobby prospecting we'll call it, 6 or 8 years, and every time I go out there I learn something new. And you've got to keep that in the back of your mind if you want to be a successful prospector too, because the day you think you've stopped learning, you should probably give it away.
That's right. And even me, I've been in the game a long time. I've probably done close to 20,000 hours on a detector. That's a lot. But I'm still learning, and I actually learned a couple of things this year off basically raw beginners that had just picked up on little details that I'd overlooked. And and it was just a simple thing about how to pack my detector away, a couple of little clips that hold your detector together when you shut it down. But you're always learning, in the field as well. Like you say, when the day you stop learning is the day you start dying, really.
Yeah, that's right.
So, always just listen to everyone, have discussions. That's the best bit, whether it's on forums on the internet or through YouTube or in person. Just talk to people about it.
Or podcasts.
Even podcasts.
That's a great idea. A Prospector Podcast. Who would have thought of that?
Oh, that's great. But we're actually doing this podcast in the Carrara pub. So for what people know, that's in the Warro goldfields, which is my old stomping grounds. I know this country really, really well. So to be able to do my first podcast in my old goldfield, I'm pretty happy about that.
And look, I'm lucky enough that I had the time up my sleeve. I could fly up and join Andy, and obviously we went for a prospect yesterday, and we're going to go again today once we finish this. But it's good for you guys to see us together. We're not just internet buddies or anything. We can do it in person. Don't know how often that'll happen for the next couple. I think we'll be remote.
That's right.
Just to give you guys an idea about our first, speed humps we hit trying to do this podcast. There's no internet here, and our run sheet for this podcast is on the internet. So we're winging this. It's all ad lib. So bear with us. I hope it comes across all right and is watchable and listenable. But we're trying our best. But those are the things you got to deal with technology when you're just a prospector.
That's right. We're just prospectors, mate. In the future, we'd like our podcast to sort of, we'll bring on guests. We'll probably talk about some products. We'll definitely discuss a lot of different goldfields around Australia. But we also want your feedback and what you want to hear as well. What sort of stuff you'd like us to discuss, or topics you want us to broach, or little segments we could make. This is a relaunch, and we're open-minded. We want it to suit the community. So any thoughts or ideas you got, shoot them through. We'll take note. Straight
in that comment section below. We'll definitely be reading them, replying to them. As Andy's touched on, we want this to be a community thing where everybody from the raw beginner right through to the seasoned prospector is going to get something out of the podcast. And you can't watch your screen while you're driving along to the goldfield, so whack us on, have a listen. It'll give you a bit of gold content that you're not used to.
One of the things we sort of wanted to discuss, or a segment we had, was just a quick thing on safety tips. Now, we'll start with what happened yesterday, will we?
Yeah, let's.
So we went out for a prospect. Of course, I've come from the Palmer River, which is just super hot, hard, remote, and I got down to the Warro goldfields. It was a beautiful, 28 degrees yesterday, light breeze blowing. It was absolutely gorgeous out there, to be honest. And I just got neglectful. I didn't drink much water. I didn't eat. Got to about 8 o'clock last night, and I felt crook. I had to go to sleep. So don't forget to drink water, even when it's cold. Even when you think you don't need it, just keep sipping on that water, everyone. You don't want to go down in the goldfields.
And we didn't go home.
No.
We spent most of the time talking smack.
Yeah.
It was but for me, 28 degree day for me it's a standard summer day down there in Melbourne, and I kept my fluids up. I finished my Camelback. I had a Powerade, and I managed to drink beers and eat my steak. So
where I only managed to drink 2 beers
and go to sleep.
Go to sleep. So, yeah, certainly made a mistake yesterday and said, lesson for me and a lesson for everyone, drink your water.
Drink your water, yeah.
So there's our safety tip. We're not going to preach, but it's always good just to make sure you're going to come home safe from those goldfields. Your loved ones want you to do that too.
Look, it's not often you're out there with a mate. I know that a lot of guys, you prospect by yourself and for obvious reasons. But it's also good to have a mate out there too, to keep an eye on each other. You know, we do have a lot of danger noodles in this country, and you know, it's pretty much lights out if you get hit by the wrong one out there. So, prospecting with a mate, you know, someone you can trust and have a good time with is always good. I enjoy the social aspect of it, you know, with the right people. So, I do also enjoy the lone time out there as well. Yeah. It's just as good, but you just be sensible. Drink your water, keep your eyes open, and you know, we only saw one danger noodle. I saw one danger noodle yesterday.
Yeah, I saw one as well.
So. Couple of snakes between us, and we weren't out there long. No. I swung for 20 minutes and did 4 pans, and you know, you probably swung for half an hour, 40 minutes.
Yeah, something like that. So, but really, it was just a social aspect, and to take Andrew out and just show him one of my local haunts, one of the spots where I've done well in the past, and just get him to start to know your way around the goldfields, which is, when you first get to a new goldfield, it takes weeks and weeks just to get to know the roads. Yeah. You're so far behind the locals that know every gully intricately, and you don't even know the roads yet. Yeah. So getting your heads up and getting to know your way around the goldfields really important. The
other thing I touched on yesterday that was profound for me was how similar the goldfields are 2,000 kilometres apart.
Yep.
I was saying to Andy at one stage driving down the road, I could be in the middle of Creswick right now, you'd believe me. The vegetation's the same, the geology's the same, everything is exactly the same, you know, and it's all to do with that dividing range, and the geology is identical. So for those of you who haven't travelled interstate to prospect, whatever you've learnt in your local goldfield, generally speaking, is going to work in other goldfields as well.
Absolutely. I mean, the vast majority of our goldfields are on sedimentary beds, and so the geology is the same, and the vegetation is the same or similar. Obviously, as you go north, you're getting tropical plants, and as you go south, you're getting into those cold climate plants. But that ironbark tree and those things, they're consistent all the way from the bottom of the mainland to the tip of the Cape. Every goldfield seems to have them, whether it's, like say, the Vicky goldfields, or here at Warwick, or Clermont, or right up on the Palmer River. They're all the same geology, which creates the same dirt, which creates the same vegetation.
Obviously, West's a bit different. That's a whole other country out there.
Western Australia. We'll touch on that at some stage. Yeah. We might actually have to get on a good special guest for that.
A good special guest, or maybe go visit ourselves, huh?
Yeah, that's the two options. We only know our own local goldfields, but we want this to be Australia-wide or a worldwide podcast. So, anyone that knows the WA goldfields that would love to come on for a chat, especially if you're a content creator,
more than welcome.
Let us know, guys.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about this goldfield, though, will we? The Warwick
goldfield. You've given me some one-on-one history, but let's fill the people in on Warwick Goldfield.
So Warwick Goldfield, it's a fairly big field, and there's a lot of small segments of it. The first part was Pretty Gully, which is actually a long way away, and it was found in 1852, which is really early in the scheme of things. But it didn't seem to go any further. It wasn't until around 10 years later that they started to discover Big Hill and the Talguy goldfields and the Palgrave goldfield and all these ones. But our biggest alluvial field was Canal Creek, or Carbine Road as we call it nowadays. And there was 3 Frenchmen found that in 1863. They eventually did that one, it's really only one gully, and it produced 20,000 ounces of gold. So that's pretty handy.
And that's alluvial?
That's all alluvial, no hard rock there at all. And those guys had that spot to themselves for about 6 or 8 weeks, prospecting it, not wanting to go back to town, because they knew the moment they walked into town with all that gold, and it did, it created a rush as always, and they pulled a hell of a lot of gold out there, and some big gold. Now, I was lucky enough many years ago to meet the bloke that first prospected Canal Creek with an SD detector back in the 90s, and he pulled 20 ounces out of the mullock heaps back in that day. And those SDs, they were great at big, deep gold too, especially. So, and he got a 1.8 and a couple of 1 ounce nuggets and a lot of big gold. But of course, nowadays, since all the detectors that have spread. Even when I was detecting there, I was using a 3500, so we're talking like 15, 18 years ago, and we were still getting good gold. But then, of course, the 4,000, the 45, the 5,000, the 7, the 6, the gold just kept coming.
Yeah.
And nowadays, a lot of people work Carbine Road, and they'll actually dig the old mullock heaps away and prospect them. Queensland hasn't got those rules where you can't touch workings. You're allowed to dig them out. And it's socially accepted in Queensland. If you want to dig out a heap of mullock heaps and prospect them, go for your life.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which I understand completely, because it's a pile of dirt that was put there from digging.
That's right.
Why is there a problem digging it again?
Yeah.
There's plenty of them. Yeah. It's not like we're going to run out of them.
No, and as far as heritage sites go, like we went to the Mountain Maid mine yesterday, which is on one of my mates, Jeff, owns private property, and he allows prospectors on for $25 a day.
Yep.
And we went and had a look at the Mountain Maid mine, which is one of the biggest mines in the district. And now Jeff won't let anyone prospect in that paddock. You're not allowed to remove a single item from that paddock. He's basically heritage listed the mine himself, and it's fantastic.
It is. You've got stumps from old buildings. You've got all your adits, all your shafts are all intact. All your ladders down, the shafts are all intact. There's relics everywhere.
Yeah.
It's
amazing.
And it's something that should be kept, I believe.
Absolutely.
And I totally respect his decision.
Yeah.
It's something that needs to be kept, and good on him for doing that.
Yeah, that's right. And they're the sort of things in history that I think should be kept.
Yeah.
100%. But when you're on a lonely gully out in the middle of the bush and there's 2 mullock heaps on an inside bend, eventually floodwaters are going to knock them out and stuff anyway. And they do hold a lot of gold. The old timers threw a lot out.
They did. Yep.
In Queensland, a lot of people make a living just from knocking down mullock heaps and detecting them. In the Warwick Fields especially, I've seen a lot of it.
So more on the Warwick Fields, mate. Was it all alluvial? Was it what run down on how
there was some good hard rock mining here.
Yeah.
Big Hill which was one of the first areas they opened up. A couple of guys came up from Victoria. They brought some gold up with them, showed the locals, and found basically got pointed towards Big Hill, hit it, and it's got some really good mines on it. The Queenslander especially was a very successful hard rock mine, but it wasn't a great alluvial field.
Yeah.
Now, as far as detecting goes, it's not open to detecting. It's in one of our shut forests.
Yeah.
So you can't really detect there or anything anymore. 20 years ago, these forests were sort of all open slather, but then they changed the laws and brought in the GPAs, and now we're restricted to the areas they send us to. So it's part of our community as well is to keep working towards getting new forests open and new ground open. And that's what I hope things like this podcast can achieve. Yeah,
I think the more that we bring the community and the hobby to the masses, the more eyes we get, the more attention we can get, the more push we have with government agencies and so on. Now back to Warwick, mate, I've got to ask, because I think there is a bit of a difference in geology and so on between some of the goldfields. Deep leads?
None here.
Yeah, no ancient riverbeds.
There's no ancient riverbeds.
Where did the water flow through here a million years ago?
It's been one of those things. Now, I guess maybe I haven't searched the Talguy field much, so if anyone out there that knows the Talguy field real well, let us know. But as far as all this other country goes, there is nothing in those regards.
Yeah.
There is very little gold on high terraces even, and it's just one of those fields that I think there hasn't been a huge amount of erosion, basically.
Yeah, sure.
So there hasn't been an opportunity for big rivers to form and then be buried or cut off and pushed off into the hills. It's really hard rock mine and your gullies
for
alluvial. And look, some of the best panning I've ever done, actually the best panning I've ever done was in the Warwick Goldfields. I've done half a dozen days where I've panned over half an ounce gold. It just really... It's a really nuggety field.
Yeah.
There's very little fine gold here. But you're more likely to pan a 0.1 than you are 0.1 worth of fine gold.
Yeah.
Simple as that. So when you come to the Warwick Goldfields, really sort of stick to your gullies at first. Don't be afraid to chase up. Use your vegetation to your advantage. Don't go into the she oak areas or the paper bark areas, even though I do know a bloke that found a few in the paper bark. But she oak areas especially, just steer clear of them. It's nothing but trapper rock in there. You really want to chase your ironbarks with your spotty gum, and then what we call the Chinaman bush, which is the streaky wattle. So it's just a small sort of 1 to 2 metre wattle, and it just loves growing when there's good gravel under its feet. So ironbark, spotty gum, and the streaky wattle. You get those three together in a gully, that's as good a spot as any to have a look.
I can tell you, as a first-time visitor to the Warro Goldfield yesterday when we were out in the bush, instantly you could see the vegetation and you knew where to be. You could see, even with your gums, the stunted growth with the small amount of topsoil and the gravelly bottom, you knew you were in the right spot straight away, and we got gold pretty easily yesterday. So it was very easy to see it, and it's very similar to Victoria in that respect.
And it's not flogged, honestly. Like
No.
there are some areas in the Warro Goldfields where people have got in and dug the whole gully up. And good luck to them. I hope they did well out of it because they worked damn hard.
Yeah.
Like, so hard. They deserve gold. But there's still so many gullies that I know hold good gold that basically there's just thousands of untouched crevices waiting to be worked. Now, we're a pretty dry goldfield.
Yeah.
So that's got a lot to do with it. It's often there's just no water there to work it. We're also, of course, not allowed to high bank or anything like that here. So it's river sluice or pan only.
Yeah.
So that slows us down in that regard. But as far as detecting goes, Warwick's a really good goldfield, being a nuggety goldfield and often quite shallow. Now I've seen some really beautiful gold come out. Now, not big gold though. I've seen a couple of 3-ounce nuggets. I've never found a nugget in the Warwick goldfield over an ounce. I've found 2 26-grammers, but never over an ounce. A lot of my mates have. I've seen a couple of years ago a few nice 70 or 80 grammers coming out. There's some other spots too that I won't mention because, it's like when someone tells you about a spot and asks you not to tell anyone, well, you don't tell anyone.
Correct.
So, but don't think that there's people, there is people out there in the Warwick goldfields finding good gold right now. Yeah. And they're just not telling anyone, that's all. So
it's the same everywhere.
That's right.
It is, yeah.
So it's out there. It's still out there. And I know it's really hard, but you've got to give yourself time. You're not going to walk into a new goldfield and straight away hit the hot spot.
And unless you're
a bit lucky.
No, I wasn't lucky, mate. You knew where you were going. You took me straight to the gold yesterday, so...
Yeah, well, that's my job.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess... something I'd like to discuss in the future, maybe in a future podcast, is the mindset difference between a pro and an amateur.
Yeah.
I'm relying on this to pay my bills.
Yes.
It's how I eat, it's how I pay my bills, it's how I survive.
Yeah.
Where for a lot of people, it's just a hobby. And it's something we all love doing, but I think the hobbyists love it more because you haven't got the pressure, you're out there to enjoy it. And that's why I loved yesterday because there was no pressure. I was like a hobbyist again. I spent as more time sitting in the sun, just enjoying the day and enjoying the views as I do prospecting.
Probably should add some water while you were sitting in the sun, mate.
Lesson learned. Especially for someone that comes from North Queensland, I just should have known better. But it's just that easy, guys, to make a mistake in the goldfields, I guess.
And look, I hope what we're going to bring to you guys is going to be beneficial because we've got Andy's side of the world, which is the pro side. You've got myself that's a hobby prospector. Look, granted, I get out a lot more than most hobbyists. I'm out 3 or 4 times a week, so most guys can't do that. I'm in a situation where I can, so I'm lucky in that regard. It only increases my knowledge every time I go out. The more time you can spend out there, the better success you're going to have, I think.
That's right. I mean, it's one of those hobbies or jobs where the only way to really learn how to do it is to get out there and do it. But paying someone for a tour, that's great, especially when, if you're a broader detector and you don't know how to use it, pay someone for a weekend course and catch up to speed real quick. But after that, it's all about hours on the creek.
Hours on the creek and hours in the research.
That's right. You can't buy experience in this game. You have to earn it. So, the more you can get out and just binge prospect every chance you get. And if you can't prospect because it's rainy or you can't get out, research, read the history books, read, anything you can get your hands on, discuss it with other prospectors online or ring your mate that's a prospector and annoy him. Just
tune into the Prospector Podcast.
That'd be a good one.
You know what else they could do?
Jump on your YouTube channel.
They could hit my YouTube channel, another gold prospector on YouTube, link in the description below, or you could also hit
mine, Andy Leahy, Diary of a Prospector. So jump on that too if you want to listen to us just discuss everyday life as prospecting.
You're also going to get what we actually do out on the field. So both of us are in agreement. We'll show you the days where we don't get gold.
Yep.
So you're not under a false pretense that every time someone goes out, they're getting ounces of gold, because it's not reality. And as a direction we want to take, being community and focused on community, we want to give you what actually happens out there, so you're not under that illusion that you're doing no good. If you go out and don't get gold every time, you think you're no good at it. We go out and have dud days too. It happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Even as a pro, I do donut days, and I'm working on Palmerville Station, one of the richest goldfields in Queensland. And you think it just has to be gold everywhere. But the fact is, it's not. And I really do like showing that. I know in my videos there's days where I just get one tiny little nugget for a full day's work. And that's the reality of it. So if you are a beginner and you're heading out and you don't find gold, don't give up hope.
Don't give up.
No, knuckle down, find that bit of mongrel in your belly and persevere, because trust me, one day the penny's going to drop and you're going to work it out. You're going to crack the code.
You're going to read ground. You're going to see what a gold trap is in a creek.
That's right.
You're going to understand the vegetation, understand the geology, and you'll start getting gold. And it's like a penny drops, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah, that's right. That first good day you do where you might pan a half a gram, or you detect your first little nugget, and then it just all starts to sink into place and away you go. Plus you've got that, I know, you found the fire then, you know you can do it. And trust me, you can all do it. So it's just one of those things. It takes a bit of perseverance. It's not an easy gig. Finding gold is never easy. It's never an easy dirt. It's never easy to get to places. You've always got to drive, you've got to walk, you've got to dig, you've got to get blisters, you're going to cut yourself on sharp rocks, you're going to walk across snakes and get ticks and all those things that happen in the bush.
Get stalked by wild dogs.
Yeah, we saw one of them yesterday. And that's going to happen, and that's all part of the adventure. I mean, that's what makes prospecting great, is the stories you can tell. This isn't like any other hobby almost.
It's not.
It's not.
We're both fishermen, and it's not. It's similar,
but not.
It's similar, but it's not. It's not the same. It's still about your research, you hunt, and then you catch. We go to your research, you hunt, and then you find. But it's still, there's a fever that comes with gold that just. I've got my ideas on that, but that's for another day. It's pretty outlandish.
It's all right to have those sort of views in prospecting.
I think it's ingrained in us. We have no control over it.
Well, it's one thing I do appreciate about prospecting community is a lot of us have got a similar mindset. Really, a lot of prospectors are just people that want to get out in the bush and they need a reason to do it. And then they get onto prospecting, whether it's they know their local creek had gold in it, or they appreciate the history, which is actually what really got me. Was fly fishing in the Victorian high country when I was a young bloke in creeks full of gold diggers. And that kept playing on my mind for years and years.
Mate, I would hate to think the amount of gold I've walked over trout fishing. It just, I look back at it now and just think, oh, wow. How much I left behind because I had a rod in my hand and not a pan.
And that's what I know. A lot of prospectors are just people that want to hang out in the bush.
And I think from multiple communities, prospecting communities that I've met and spoken to and interacted with online, it always comes back to not a common theme, but a group of people that they like to clear their head out in the bush, and it's something that helps a lot of guys.
Especially in this modern world. There is so much pressure, it's so much hustle and bustle. 20 years ago, blokes never showed weakness. Now you know yourself, how many blokes will sit down and discuss how they feel and how they're actually going in life. And that's a big step, and prospecting certainly helps with that, I doubt there's many listeners out there that haven't had their own mental health battles or know a personal friend or family member that's had them as well.
And it's amazing that prospecting
brings it
together.
And allows, especially blokes, middle-aged blokes, to sit down and talk about what's happening in their life. Without being judged anymore or anything like that. Those days are gone. And so, prospecting has probably saved thousands of people from suicide and those sort of things. It's really, really become a community, and that's what we want, a community that backs each other and takes care of each other. And that's part of the reason we're doing this podcast.
And it's got such the hardest element of that community getting along is the gold.
It is, yeah. It does funny things.
You've got one thing where you all want to keep it to yourself and not tell anybody, but we all want to sit down and talk about stuff.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those really fine lines.
It is. It certainly is, and that's why how many prospectors that give their gullies their own individual name.
Yeah.
So that me and you could sit down with a bunch of other prospectors and say Black Soil Gully, which is where we were yesterday.
Yeah.
And no one else knows except me and my close friends. Yeah. And that's prospecting. We're secretive, but we still want to be community as well.
Yep.
It's that fire line.
Or clout chasing.
Yeah.
There's plenty of that goes on.
There is. And good luck to them as well, I guess. Everyone's just trying to get by in this world nowadays.
Now, opposite of clout chasing, for those who listened to the podcast earlier, I always did a shout out. Now, I want to rename this topic. Now, I gave you a couple of ideas.
Yeah.
I think the first one I came up with, drop a nugget.
Drop a nugget.
But I think that might be misconstrued as to we've been to the toilet. So
we thought about
find a nugget.
Find a nugget, or what was it? Create a cooee.
Create a cooee, yeah.
Yeah, but then most people from overseas will have no idea.
You guys in the States will be like, cooee what? Yeah. But we love your input. What should we call the shout out segment? Drop a comment below. This week's shout out goes to Two Brothers Prospecting Australia. If you haven't seen their channel, Andy and Luke do every aspect of prospecting. They're based in Victoria in the Golden Triangle. They hit the hard rock. They'll hit old mines, grab samples, crush them down. They've got detectors, a couple of 6,000s that they go out there and they get good gold. They'll hit the creeks and get the high banker out. They'll hit the pans. Being brothers, there is banter till the cows come home. Great bunch of guys. So go and hit their YouTube channel. Give them a follow. Tell them that the Prospector Podcast sent you over if you haven't already found them. So Two Brothers Prospecting Australia on YouTube. There is a link in the description below to their channel as well. So shout out to the boys, and hopefully we'll speak to them soon too, because I'd love to get them on the show.
Absolutely. Now, one thing I'd like to sort of touch on every episode is research techniques.
Yes.
So we talk a lot about research and how probably at least 50% of my prospecting is research.
Yeah.
So we might just touch on a little topic every week of what we use to research, whether it's a website or your mate's bloody library.
Yeah.
So, but this week, Trove.
Yep.
The website Trove. Now, for anyone that doesn't know what that is, that's a government website where they've gone through and got all the old newspaper clippings and put them on a website. Now, that thing has hidden information everywhere. So if you haven't used the Trove website, jump on and do it. And when you Google things on Trove, you can...
I think you Trove them, don't you?
You Trove them?
I think you Trove them.
You Trove them.
Yeah.
So when you Trove it, type in a full sentence of what you want to see, whether Warwick goldfields, Talguy hard rock mining. Type that in. And you should get responses. If not, back it off a bit or change your wording. But get really specific on what you want to read on the goldfield and what you want to read, whether it's a particular gully or a technique or the history. But Trove is just an amazing website, and I have found gold thanks to that website.
I found one of the best tools in the advanced search section. You can bring it down to newspapers in that region. So if you're specifically looking for something in Warwick, you look at the newspapers that from the 1800s right through till now that were distributed around Warwick. So that's where your articles are going to be. It's a really handy tool in Trove.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Even I haven't done that one, so I might give that a crack.
It just gets rid of, because you could write Warwick, and it could have been about the butcher selling something to someone in Melbourne.
That's right.
That's going to come up in your search. But if you just narrow it right down to where you're looking in those newspapers, it just, you go from 20,000 hits down to 1,000, and you're looking a lot better for what you're looking for.
There you go. See, even detector operators can learn something off these panning guys.
You're going to call me a panic.
But no, that's research techniques really get them down pat, because man, you can find sometimes that one bit of information that'll change your life. I was only telling you a story about a gully I found up in the Palmer called Rusty Tin Gully. And I'd read, sort of information about this particular gully that an old fella had walked up with his donkey, and when he walked out a month later, he carried out 2,600 ounces of gold. And I was pretty determined to find that gully.
I feel sorry for the donkey.
Me too. I hope he got fed well. But, and I did eventually find that gully, and it was thanks to Trove. So don't doubt that. I got 12 ounces out of that gully I pulled. So don't doubt Trove. It can lead you to a lot of gold.
Yeah, alternate sources of information.
Yep.
You'll find get you to places you didn't think existed.
Yep. Yeah, and sometimes it's just one sentence or one word or just one little hint.
It'll get you off on the track, and you can.
That's right. And then then you use your feet, which is still the best research tool, especially when you're truly prospecting, when you're looking for new ground. I mean, if you're going into old country where you know gold is, you probably don't need to research it too much. You just need to get in there and put in the hard yards. But if you're searching new ground or you go to a new gold field, research. Cannot say it enough. No. It has found me more gold than walking through hills.
Yeah, I've been banging on about it in podcasts and YouTube videos for the last 7 months, and I'll keep banging on about it because
it really is.
It's at least 50% of prospecting is your research.
Yeah,
at least.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially when you are searching new ground, and that's the type of prospecting I do. Yeah. We know there's many types of prospecting from, even with detecting, there's a lot of different options. You can just go to the old mullock heaps and pick up the gold everyone else has missed, or go to your favourite little gully you've been going to for 10 years and always get a few, which is basically what we did yesterday.
Yeah.
But then there's true prospecting, where you're going into country with no historical markings, no history says anything about it, no one in the community is talking about it, the old timers didn't dig it. To me, that's true prospecting, where you're looking for new sources or sometimes forgotten sources too, where the old timers maybe did find a sneaky little gully and no one else has found it since.
Yeah.
So, there's many, many types of prospecting, and hopefully we get to touch on all of them.
Yeah, I think we will. We need some content, so I think we will.
We will. That's right. And we'll try and bring on, content creators that do different aspects, whether it's high banking or detecting or even sniping. There's so many ways to find gold.
There is. We'll take leaseholders too, like guys that I don't know how they do it, but running their own little mine. It's a tough way to make a living, but
it is. And there's many types of that. There's scratch and detect. There's wet plants, dry plants. There's up north you're allowed to dredge on your lease. There's so many aspects to it. So. It's one of the beauties of gold is you really should never get bored. No. Because there's always a new option.
You shouldn't run out of things to talk about either. Really. There's so much of it.
There really is. Yeah. This hobby, there's nothing else like it. I mean, I've chased gems, I've chased crystals, topaz, sapphires, quartz crystals, and they're all good fun, but you don't get sapphire fever.
No.
You don't get topaz fever. You get addicted to it, but there's nothing like gold.
Gold fever.
There's something special about that yellow metal.
Yeah. And it doesn't take much to scratch that itch either, does it? It could be a couple of specks in a pan up to an ounce, you still get the same feeling.
Yeah, or even a big research binge will do it, because all of a sudden, you found this new spot you're going to.
Right, that's the next thing to look forward to.
That's right. Yeah. No one else has probably ever been there. This is a sneaky little prospect. What am I going to find? How rich will it be? And that kicks off the hope, which, kicks off the dreams and keeps your brain active, keeps you going for another week till you can get there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as we wanted to touch on earlier, the direction of this podcast, that's probably given you a bit of a taste of what we're going to yabber on about.
Yep.
But as we said, love your input. We want your feedback, because we're doing this for you guys. We're not doing it for us. We're not going to make money out of it or anything. We're happy to do it for the community and get it out there. So your input is invaluable. Please share this. Please subscribe. Please like it. Do all that. Being the first one on its fresh channel, it's going to need a bit of help for some traction. So we really need your help to get that traction going, and we appreciate your help for sure. Appreciate you tuning in and listening as well and watching. Obviously, a new part of this is you can watch it.
You can watch us.
It's not just me yabbering to a microphone by myself. we'll have the technology set up a little differently probably for the next one. We are in the middle of pretty much nowhere.
Yep.
With no internet and
we're just winging it. We did have a whole sheet of all the segments we were going to break into, but here we are just talking now.
And I think that's the best way. I think it's natural. It's how we want to be. We don't want to be scripted. We want you to get what we have to say, and
that's right.
Hopefully you can relate to that. And
that's right. We want to share information. This is really free information about research, about safety, about panning, detecting, about goldfields, about the community, and that's why we do need your input and your feedback, so we can have segments in the future when we've got internet and we follow a bit of a game plan. We'll break it into segments. So and we need your help for that. We really do. Segments you'd like to hear about, goldfields you want to hear about, different prospecting techniques, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, if you've got a favourite goldfield or somewhere you want to hear about the history, we're both research nuts, so we don't have a problem looking into those goldfields for you and giving you a rundown. It's no drama at all. I get a kick out of the history. I get a kick out of my researching. So that's bring it.
That's right. And in that we can tell you what we found when we were researching, but more importantly, tell you what technique we used during the research. Yeah. So you can do it yourself in the future. Yeah, and we're going to get to that goldfield before you with the research we've used and clean it out. That's right. And that's what research does, mate. It does. Yeah. Saves you so much time. You can just wander straight to where you want to go and start pulling gold, hopefully. Theories. Hopefully. Should we go pull some gold? Why not, mate? It's a beautiful day. We've got a private property. I'm going to work the screen for a sec, but beautiful sunny day out there. We've got the curtains closed so you can actually see us. Yep. Nice light breeze, and I've got a bowl of water, so we should. You might need two, I think. Yeah. we got some private property to hit. Yep. Sounds good. I like it. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in. First episode of the Relaunch. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm Andrew. I'm Andy. Catch you next time. Thanks, everyone. See ya.